Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast, the podcast for moms who know that when they take care of themselves, they can take better care of everyone else. You guys, there's a great opportunity right now for you to take care of yourself. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, November 5th, it's not too late to join Ultimate Morning Makeover. When you jump in and you take this next month with me to make over your mornings, you are going to see changes throughout your entire day and well beyond this month, because what we're doing in this group is setting you up so that you don't have regrets at 4 in the afternoon. You're not thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done this. I still need to get this done. We've all been there, and you don't have to live like that. You can get things done in the morning, have this amazing start to your day, and you will see things run so much smoother. So if you have not yet, go to momswhoknowpodcast.com/morning, get signed up and join us. And we would love to have you. It's going to be a great month for all those that are participating. Today's podcast guest is Hannah Coles. I'm excited for you guys to meet her and to learn from her. I think that the topic that we're going to talk about is really relevant and helpful to everybody, because we're talking about mental self-care, how to take care of the things that go on around you by taking care of yourself. So let's jump right in. You're going to love this episode with Hannah Coles. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and I'm joined today by Hannah Coles. Hannah, thank you so much for being on with us today.
This is so great. Thank you.
Yeah, I have been following Hannah for a while, and I love watching her on Facebook and seeing her videos and the things that she posts. She just has so much good stuff to share. So Hannah is a life coach, and she was certified through the Life Coach School. She is trained in mindfulness, and she also has a podcast called Love at Home, and I have enjoyed listening to that as well. So Hannah helps people navigate difficult family relationships, learn how to forgive past hurts, mend broken hearts, learn balance, and create love at home by first learning to strengthen themselves. She's a mom of 4 who homeschools and lives, like me, in California. So, Hannah, I love this idea of strengthening your family by strengthening yourself first. And I think that that's where I'd love to just jump right in and start with that today. So how does strengthening ourselves help us to strengthen our families?
Yeah, of course. So I believe that we each can influence and we can teach and offer advice to others. But really, the only real power we have is over ourselves. It's that whole analogy of like the flight masks, that you have to put on your own mask first so that you can help others, because you can't help anyone when you're tired or passed out or just not strong. And so when we try to go straight into helping our kids, to serving at church, to volunteering in the community or at school or sports or all the things that moms do, and we don't take any time to take care of ourselves, we get worn out so fast. And so we start to feel like we're drowning and we're just tired. And so we show up as cranky mom or yelling mom or just hanging by a thread mom. So if we can focus on ourselves and learn to fill our own buckets, then we have so much more to give, and we can be that kind of mother for our kids that we really want to be.
Yes. Okay. You are totally speaking my language. See, this is why I like you so much, because this is the kind of stuff that I feel like is just so important for moms to know. And sometimes we don't make that connection. We see this, we see that we're grumpy. We see that we're frazzled, but we don't see that if I do this for myself, that is what's going to make the change and help me not be that grumpy mom.
Right. I think a lot of times we do feel, and because I know that I did for a long time before learning these tools, that I felt like if I did anything for myself, I felt guilty, like I should be spending that time with my kids or doing something or serving. And I just didn't realize, like you said, that by filling my own bucket first, I had so much more to offer, and in such a better way for me to feel and to influence and inspire others to feel the same.
Okay, so I'd love for you to get a little personal with us here and tell us So you felt that guilt before, and I think that we can all relate to that. We've felt that same guilt. We're doing something for ourselves and we're not doing something directly for our kids. How did you get over that?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. So for a long time, I'll share. When I found life coaching, it was at a time in my life that I was feeling just a lot of things. I knew who I wanted to be. I wanted to be, be there for perfect, like everyone, but I wanted to be the kind of mom and wife and friend and disciple that was loving and giving and charitable. Like I was meant for more, but I was just really struggling with my season and feeling so frustrated with the house and the family. And like you said, I felt horribly guilty because I shouldn't feel those things. I should be happy all the time and I should be really grateful, which only made things really worse because then we end up entertaining that negative inner dialogue like, why can't you just be grateful? Why can't you be grateful for the things you have? Isn't it enough? That kind of stuff. And then you just feel terrible. And so I was actively seeking for help and praying for light. And that was about the time that I found this avenue that just really resonated with my soul. And the whole principle of it all is to learn how to take care of yourself and to step back so that you can be a better disciple, so that you can use your agency to follow Christ and not spend so much time in that negative drama and chatter that our minds offer up. If we can clear that up, then we can move forward. And that's kind of where it was, where I made peace with taking time to do my own self-care.
Okay, that's awesome. So, when you got involved with life coaching, did you start off receiving life coaching or you just felt like, okay, I want to go all in and become a life coach?
No, I actually studied it for a few years before diving in because I homeschool my kids and I just didn't know if I had time or really I was just learning to apply and it was transforming my entire life. So I actually found it via podcast. I had a good friend that had a commute to work and she was telling me all about podcasts and I was like, what is a podcast? This sounds so weird. And so she actually took screenshots. She's like, download this app. And so I did, and I just typed in, motherhood. I don't know how, but by divine design, I'm sure I found a podcast for life coaching. It was the first time I'd ever even heard of a life coach, and so that's kind of how I got started with it. And then, like I said, I just studied so wholeheartedly and applied, and it transformed my life. And then I just decided that this is what I want to do. I want to share this with others because of the huge transformation that happened in my own life. I wanted to help others do the same. So that's what I do now. And it's such a blessing. I love it.
That's so cool. Okay. So I want to get back then and talk about how moms how the listeners here, they're hearing this and they're feeling like, okay, yeah, I should do that. And they've heard it before if they listen to this podcast, because I preach self-care a lot. This is something we talk about a lot on the show. But how can moms strengthen themselves? What are the ways that they put this into practice? What does it look like?
Yeah, okay. I think the biggest and the best way to strengthen ourselves is to take really good care of our mind because it's our mind, it's our thoughts that motivate us, into action to go in and doing. And too often I think we focus on how do we do this and we don't stop and think about, why or our whole purpose. And so that's how we start. We invest so much time in trying to take care of our physical health, what we eat and making sure we exercise. And we dedicate a lot of time to our spiritual health and learning and growing and things like that. But I think that we leave our mental health kind of by the wayside. And what I mean by that is really navigating and paying a lot of close attention to what you're thinking and what you're choosing to believe.
Okay. Now I can say that for me, it's been really interesting as I've paid attention to my thoughts. Um, just a quick experience. Earlier this year, I went to a conference and it was a conference on abundance. It was called Abundance Unleashed, and abundance is my word of the year. And so I thought, oh, that's perfect. This is the conference for me. I'll go to this. And one of the things he talked about was time abundance. And he talked about how I mentioned this on a recent episode, but that we tell ourselves, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And I started paying attention to this thought and started reframing it. And I noticed when I tell myself I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time. I'm stressed. But when I tell myself I have all the time in the world, I have time for everything I need, things shift. So is that the kind of mental activity that you're talking about, or is there something more?
That has a huge part in it, absolutely. So what I teach is that in life, we're presented with circumstances, things outside of our control, our families, our kids, the weather, all of those kinds of things. And then those circumstances trigger thoughts within us. Like you said, the being late or not having enough time, we have those thoughts, and those thoughts create a feeling within us. And so when you tell yourself, I don't have enough time, then we feel frazzled and, scarcity and kind of just on edge. And so when you can step back and just deliberately decide what you want to think about the circumstance, it changes your whole world. One thing, because we have kids, there was one morning that I woke up and I walked out of my room and the kids were making this elaborate breakfast, like a 10-course meal, and just like every dish pot, everything was out. And I think normally I would have immediately jumped to feeling frustrated or upset because they made a huge mess. And by managing my mind, I could just pause for just a moment and I could look at that and think so many other things, that instead of thinking they shouldn't have done that they are making me mad, just to realize that it's my choice, that I can think, wow, they were up early. They started off on a creative foot, and then that thought just feels so differently than they shouldn't have done that. That feels frustrating. And so, yeah, we manage our minds by just realizing what thoughts we're looping and believing. And it really creates a filter in which we perceive and see our whole world. And so that's kind of what I teach. We really want to manage our minds and place close attention to the things that we're thinking and we're believing, and separating that what's factual and what's just an opinion and what's fictional.
Okay, that is hard to do. So that is a different take, I feel like, on self-care than what we hear a lot of times. This idea of that self-care really begins in our minds and begins with the way we're thinking about things. So when you're working with people, it seems like an issue that would come up is that it's kind of hard to even recognize your own thoughts sometimes. How do you start to see your own thoughts?
So a lot of times we're constantly sharing our thoughts. We're just not used to stopping and thinking about them. I really love the visual of like a fish swimming in the ocean. The fish that's in the ocean doesn't realize that it's apart from the ocean. It just thinks it's a fish and, with the ocean. And so it's kind of like us, that we are ourselves and we are swimming in a sea of our thoughts, but we are very different and apart from our thoughts. And so we get to choose which thoughts we want to deliberately keep and which thoughts we just want to swim right on past. Does that make sense? Not really.
Yeah, I think, no, it does. It definitely makes sense. But I'm trying to make it very concrete. And I'm thinking about, back to your example of you come out to the kitchen and it's a huge mess. I think that we immediately go to the feeling. We say experience, feeling, and there is that thought, but we don't recognize or aren't conscious of the fact that there is that thought in between. So is it a matter of slowing down and recognizing, like, oh, I'm thinking about all the dishes that I'm going to have to do later, and I can shift that thought into, like you said, oh, my kids are so creative. And then that shifts the feelings. Can you talk a little bit more about the process in the moment?
Oh, absolutely. So I actually call this the mix up, because this is how I operated for a really long time, because we have this idea that things happen and that we feel something automatically. And so we have circumstances,
Yes.
feelings, and then we think things off of those feelings. And the only problem with thinking this way and operating from this model, I guess, is that we have no power. It takes away our agency because when I wake up in the morning, I don't know what's, in store for me. I don't know how I'm going to feel, if I'm going to feel mad or excited or however the day is going to be. And that feels kind of scary to me to not have any control in my life. And so what I really teach my clients is just writing down their thoughts and starting there just to get an idea of what our thoughts are and that we have responsibility, that we can take ownership for everything in our life. And so when I go out there and I see that mess, to be honest, I might not actually think that they're very creative. I might choose to still feel upset, but I own that. I own that I'm choosing to think they shouldn't have done this. And then I can choose to hang on to that feeling if I want to, if I feel like that's going to serve me best that day. So I don't teach that we need to be happy all the time. I actually think that that's really difficult for a lot of us because I think we're supposed to experience a full spectrum of emotions here in mortality. And so the only thing that we just need to be really clear on is owning our feelings, is owning that how we're feeling. And I'm creating it by choosing to believe this thought, right? By choosing to believe this sentence in my mind. And so, yeah, a lot of it is just being aware to start by realizing like, this is how I'm feeling. That's usually what we think. We don't actually stop to think what we're thinking. We stop when we don't feel good. And we're like, whoa, I don't feel good. Something needs to be fixed. Let me change something. And so we bypass our thoughts and we go straight to the circumstance. And that's kind of where we just kind of leave out our thoughts entirely. We're not aware of them. We're not thinking of them. And so naturally we think, oh, it's my kids. They made me mad. And so if I can own and really hang on to the thought, no, wait, they can't make me do anything. I'm choosing how I'm feeling. And then I can go back and I can retrace the thought, or I can start and I can choose to think a different thought, which is going to generate a new feeling. So awareness is the first part, but being really clear on I'm creating this. I'm taking ownership for how I feel. No one can make me feel anything without my permission.
Okay, I think that's so powerful because a lot of times I think moms really feel stuck and they feel powerless when they look around and things are not going the way they want in their families, either in their marriage or with the way their kids are behaving or with the way they're behaving with their kids. So this kind of empowers moms a little bit. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of how moms get stuck in that place of stuckness, I guess?
Yeah, of course. So I think most of the time it's a matter of not being clear on the difference between our wants versus our needs because we all have needs and it's absolutely okay to have needs. But what I teach is to really find out what those needs are and then find a way to always give that to yourself instead of needing it from others. So, like when I need my house to be clean and I need my kids to clean it so that I can feel at peace or I can feel comfortable, then I'm basically handing over my emotional bucket to them and putting it in their care, which is probably not the best thing to do because they're kids and they don't want to clean. So if I can really separate like, oh, I need my house clean, and if I can figure out a way to do that myself and not I'm not saying that we have to. I think a lot of moms hear that and they're like, oh, great. Now I have to do everything. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is to find out what you need and then to be really creative and figuring out a way to solve that for yourself because there's always a million ways to go and possibilities to solve those needs without needing it from others. I can still want those things. I still do today. I still want my kids to pick up after themselves. I still want my husband to say nice things to me or people to give me compliments or to go and have wonderful family dinners, with extended family. But the difference is separating, again, my responsibility. My needs are for me to fill. And if I can figure that out, then I can show up from a very clean space and just love everyone. We just show up and love, and I can make those requests from people, but I get to take care of how I feel no matter what. So I know that I'm going to be okay no matter what. And so, yeah, then we can just show up and want. We feel stuck when we are asking people to do things and they don't do them because we can't control other people, and that doesn't feel good because we're left feeling, negatively, and there's no way for us to get out of that without them doing what we need. And so by taking them out of the equation and filling those needs for ourselves, then we show up and we can want and request, but we're already whole. Like, we're not powerless. There are options, and we know no matter what, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I just feel that same word keeps coming to mind that I used earlier. It's just so empowering. You don't have to wait for someone else to do that for you. You are going to handle that thing yourself. And then I love what you said. Then you show up and you love people. Now, what about the people who are listening to this and saying like, okay, yeah, I can take care of my needs, but I still want things from a relationship, like in that scenario. I want my kids to clean up their messes. I want my husband to give me compliments. How do you kind of balance the two?
Between wanting and needing?
Oh, yes. So between taking care of your own needs and then having these other things that you still want and would like and would be nice.
Yeah, of course. So what I teach is that in life there are things that we want, but really when it boils down to it, like why you want the thing is because of how you're going to feel once you have it. So for example, with the house, I believe that once my house is clean, then I will feel at peace. But if I can get straight to the need, like I need to feel at peace, that's what I want right now. And if I figure out a way to give that to myself, then I can show up and still teach my kids and I can still ask them, but I can already feel at peace ahead of time by figuring out that need. And then because everything else is a circumstance, and that's not what causes our feelings. What causes our feelings is our thoughts about it. So if I can be really clear in that mindset, then I can feel how I want to feel. And then I show up in a more creative aspect. If I want my husband to say nice things to me, I can totally ask for that. And I know some moms are like, no, that's weird, but I don't think, I think it's better to request that because he might not know. He might think wonderful things of me, but if that's something that I need to hear, then I can make that request. I can ask that from him. But again, I need to own that responsibility and that he has his agency and he might not say those things to me. And so I need to be good about giving myself those compliments or saying those things that I need to hear. Or if my kids choose not to clean up, I need to be really clear about consequences or how I can figure out a way to get it done no matter what. But all the while, I'm still operating from a very clean space instead of a needy space and asking everyone to fill my bucket because I'm on empty. So if I show up with my bucket full already, then again, I just love them and I own that they have their agency and I can want it from them, but not need it from them.
Yes. Okay. I love that you linked that back to what we were talking about earlier with the experiences and thoughts and then feelings, because that really kind of all ties it together for me in my mind of how this works. And it's not about the outcome. It's not about whether the house gets clean or not. It's not about that end thing. It's about, for one thing, how we're choosing to think about things. And for another thing, taking ownership and responsibility for the thoughts we're choosing to think and the way we want to feel. Is that fair
Yeah.
to say?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because we really can have everything that we want in life. I love that we have that power and that possibility that we can have the things that we really, really want. But we just need to be clear on how to get there. And it's just amazing. Yeah. Our agency is huge.
Yeah. Okay. I love what you've shared with us today because I think that it just gives us so much ability to choose how we want to do things in our family, to choose how we want to show up. And it's this empowerment of, okay, I get to decide. The circumstances don't get to decide. My feelings don't control me. There's this part in the middle and it's me and I get to control that. So I think that's really a great thing for moms to hear. So if people want to hear more from you, where can they go?
So my website is thecatalyst.coaching.com or www.thecatalyst.coaching, don't forget the ing.com. And I have freebies and a lot of resources there if they want to look into that and get more information on this topic.
Awesome. Okay, I will link to that. And any final thoughts for us before we go?
Yeah, I would just say that as a mother, I there's a quote that I really love from President Monson that I actually have on my wall that says, "Our task in life is to become our best selves." And I really feel like that's so significant for ourselves and for our lives because really it's our journey, the way that we show up in our marriage and as a mother to our kids, it's all about us figuring out who we can become. And I really do believe that we can become and have anything that we desire in this life by first realizing that how much power we have in our agency, that we can get past our inner chatter and the kind of default thoughts that we have and just start targeting that in a way and in alignment with where we want to go and who we want to become because it is possible. And it does start with awareness and our thoughts and what we choose to hang on to and what we choose to believe. It's so powerful. I love this work.
Yes. Well, it's a good work that you're doing. I think that a great takeaway for listeners today and a challenge is to next time you're in that situation, whatever it is that kind of sets you off and makes you feel frustrated or upset or whatever, to pause and to look at your thoughts and to really be aware of those thoughts. Because in all that we've talked about, that really is kind of the first step. If we can be aware of that, and even if it doesn't change your behavior right away, that awareness is going to lead to changed behavior down the line. So I would challenge you guys to do that, to put that into practice by being more aware of your thoughts. So, Hannah, I feel like this has given us lots to think about and lots to do. So, thank you again for being with us
Thank you
today.
so much. This was wonderful.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to Moms Who Know. So glad you guys could join me for this episode of the Moms Who Know podcast. Visit momswhoknowpodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, click over to the morning link to get the details about Ultimate Morning Makeover. Don't wait. We have already started and we would love to have you join us.